I was like, why are we doing Color Purple again? That's just dumb. And then, but it was when Blitz called and said, and told me about his radical vision, reimagining of it. And I was like, oh my God, I have to be in this.
The color purple, a symbol of royalty, of liberation, of defiance. But in the world of Alice Walker's The Color Purple, two very different shades emerge. On one hand, we have the earthy browns and muted tones of the 1987 film, mirroring the harsh realities of Celie's life. And on the other, the 2023 musical explodes with bold purples, golds, reds, and greens, painting a world of hope and empowerment. But it's not just the aesthetics that differ. Faith and spirituality intertwine with Celie's journey in captivating yet contrasting ways. So join us as we explore how these films paint divergent portraits of a woman's resilience, examining their approaches to faith, gender, and the complexities of the Black female experience. As we look at these two films and see which film truly captures the heart and soul of this beloved story, let's dive into a world where aesthetics and emotions clash, where beauty and pain interweave, and where The Color Purple holds 1,000 different meanings. The 1987 film immerses us in Celie's world of muted tones and harsh realities. The original film doesn't shy away from the brutal rawness of Celie's existence. The camera and we, the audience, become a witness to her pain, capturing every tear, every flinch, every flicker of defiance in her eyes. The gritty realism and its claustrophobic framing, its deliberate gut punches every time we see her interaction with Mr., pulling us into a suffocating world of oppression that she has to endure, as we watch the women around her also be pulled into that same oppression. The colors themselves tell a story. Browns reflecting the dusty soil she works, muted greens mirroring the unfulfilled dreams within her. It's a world where beauty is scarce, where even sunlight seems filtered through layers of hardship, but yet there's still rays of sunlight that shine through. There's still moments of hope. Even with the muted colors, the dull sunlight, there's still rays of hope in Celie's life. We see this when she looks at the picture of Suge Avery. We see Celie have hope with her sister Nettie being out there waiting for the letters as she goes through her life. Even though she's going through all these things, she has moments where there is hope, where she sees someone like Sophia standing up for what she believes. So while it's bleak, light still shines, but it never pulls away from the gravity of it all. It shows the complexity of emotion where, yes, it's bright, it's sunlight, but that's where some of the most tragic scenes happen. That's when Mr. tried to have his way with Nettie in broad daylight. It's also during daylight where Mr. kicks Nettie out. And while all this is happening and it's bright and sunny outside, yet these horrific things are happening. So it juxtaposes the idea that while it's bright and sunny, we see it's muted. We see emotion, we see the complexity, we see the pain that she's going through. It's not in some dark corner. The reality of it is so horrible that it's happening and it permeates even on the brightest and sunniest of days. The 2023 musical soars into a vibrant spectacle where Celie's journey intertwines with Christian faith. Gospel anthems fill the air, transforming Celie's world into a dazzling spectacle. The camera embraces the theatricality, soaring through fantastical landscapes, swirling around characters in choreographed movements. The colors explode, contrasting a vibrant fantasy with her harsh reality, and that in itself can be very jarring. The colors explode. Celie's dress is a beacon of liberation. Nettie's arrival is bathed in golden light, the air itself shimmering with possibilities. It's a stark contrast to the muted tones of the original, a deliberate escape from the harsh realities, a celebration of dreams that simmer beneath the surface. And this shift to a more traditional religious framework offers comfort, but it also diverges from the novel's exploration of alternative spiritualities. Alice Walker's The Color Purple is more so about the discovery of spirituality. In the original novel, while it explores some really dark things, we're talking about incest, we're talking about rape, we're talking about certain things. In the original novel, while it explores a lot of different facets when it comes to oppression of women, when it comes to molestation, when it comes to just the way women were treated as a whole, and Celie having to overcome all that, at the core of the story, it is a story about spirituality, about Celie discovering what spirituality and what God means to herself. More so about breaking away from the more Christian traditional idea of God, and more so God is all around us and love itself is God, and the ability to love is God in itself. But in the musical, we find ourselves leaning more so towards the religious gospel side, more so than the original novel, more so than the 1987 film. Because even though Suge's father plays a major role in her life in the original, in the new 2023 remake, with the spectacle of music, with the jarring cuts from what's supposed to be a dark story to bright theatrical lights, we have a greater emphasis on the Black Southern church, religion as a whole, Christianity. It's more church hymns than anything else, I feel like, in this movie. But that goes against the very nature of what the story The Color Purple is all about, which is spirituality and discovering that in the non-traditional way, because both the movies themselves do not explore fully Celie's sexuality, her and Suge's relationship, and that is in stark contrast to the more church feel that the musical tries to portray, because we don't even see the real relationship dynamics between Suge and her father, yet the presence of the church is ever looming in the story. And in the original, we see Celie move away from religion. Her and Suge have theological discussions where it's not really shown in the 2023 remake, because again, it's a retelling of the story, but you lose the value of the story if you don't get the essence of what it's about. Because the heart of The Color Purple lies not just in the setting, but in the characters. In the original, Whoopi Goldberg embodies Celie with raw, unfiltered emotion. Her every tear, her every laugh feels ripped straight from the pages of the novel. The musical offers a different approach. Stylized singing, choreographed movements, heightened theatricality. Celie's pain is expressed through song, her joy through dance. It's a powerful display, but one that can sometimes create distance between the characters and the audience and the story that they're trying to tell. This is by no means an indictment on Fantasia's performance, because I have to put this caveat out there. The performances in both movies, phenomenal. Even though I'm somewhat critical of the theatricality of the musical, I'm a musical guy. One of my favorite movies of all time is Grease, and that's a musical. It's in my top 5 movies of all time. I'm a musical guy. But depending on the story you're trying to tell, it can take away from the gut-wrenching emotions that really make The Color Purple that much more powerful. The musical with its stylized singing and choreography elevates Celie's journey to a more theatrical, almost divine realm. This contrast invites us to consider how artistic choices shape our understanding and faith and overcoming adversity. But we can't have a discussion about The Color Purple if we don't discuss the elephant in the room, and that is the presence of Black masculinity and patriarchy as a whole, represented as the Black man. The big elephant in the room, Mr. Harpo, their father, as well as Mr. C, Grandpa Mr., and that ever-looming presence in their lives. Because in 1987, when the movie came out, it was a big discussion in Black communities, as well as today, about Black masculinity and the portrayal of the Black men. In the original movie, it was a stark portrait. While the film's critique of patriarchal structures and domestic abuse remains valuable, the predominantly negative portrayal of Black men like Celie's husband creates a complex tension. It raises important questions about representation and responsibility, prompting viewers to consider whether this portrayal reinforces harmful stereotypes or serves as a necessary indictment of systematic oppression. Because in the movie itself, we never see the nuanced character of Mr. Why is he this way? He's just an angry nigga. In the movie, Mr's literally an angry, hateful nigga. And at the end of the movie, he gets no full journey. He doesn't come back. He's a character who's forever lost. While he does bring Nettie in and reunite the family, he doesn't have a redemption arc. He's just an angry nigga and he's gonna die like one, just like his father. There is no nuanced interpretation of Mr. While in the original novel, Alice Walker does show Mr's come around. We see that Celie and Mr. become friends and they form a bond of friendship, even though he was the very oppressor and the most harmful part of Celie's entire existence. Well, outside her dad, but you get the point. And that's where the musical has its balancing act. In contrast, the musical strives for a more nuanced portrayal of black men characters. We see positive black male figures like Sugar Avery's lover Grady, as well as the new portrayal of Harpo, just trying to find his way in a post-slavery, post-sharecropping society with an abusive father, and Harpo just trying to navigate. There's more nuance to his character, and it offers counterpoints to the abusive men in Celie's life. But I could see how this balancing act dilutes the raw weight of Celie's trauma and minimizes the lasting impact of the harm inflicted by her husband. But The Color Purple is a story woven with symbols and themes that transcend the screen. The Color Purple itself is a recurring motif in both films and takes on different meanings, from defiance to self-discovery, from oppression to liberation, from hate to forgiveness. Letters exchanged across continents speaks to sisterhood and hope. Every detail, every color choice, every musical note contributes to a tapestry of themes that resonate long after the credits roll, because it is more about finding love, finding God, forgiveness. Mr. is the way he is because of how he was brought up. But God is love. The Color Purple itself is love. While the story itself is mainly focused on black women and overcoming their issues, it's also extending itself to the black experience. Black men are damaged. They're also a part of the system, while they are the oppressors against black women. And you could look at it as though it's putting the onus on black women to help black men, but that's not necessarily the case. Mr. actually changes because Celie puts her foot down. She curses him, but her act of defiance, standing up for herself and leaving his sorry ass, forces him to look in the mirror and evolve, forces him to embrace something in him. And we see at the end of the musical, they become friends. He's invited to her dinner. It's jarring because we know what has done, but because Celie has the power to overcome everything that was in her path, holding on to that hate would have been something that held her back, and Celie is able to overcome that as well. Adapting The Color Purple, a novel bursting with emotional truth and complex characters, was never an easy feat. Released in 1982, the book sparked both widespread acclaim and fierce controversy for its unflinching portrayal of racism, sexism, and domestic abuse. Bringing such a rich narrative to the screen meant making tough choices and navigating a cultural landscape significantly different from Walker's initial publication. And adapting The Color Purple isn't just about capturing a story, it's about negotiating a multitude of perspectives. The filmmaker's choice regarding faith and gender and black masculinity reflect their own perspectives and interpretations and artistic priorities, inevitably leaving gaps and sparking passionate debates. The 1987 film broke ground as one of the first major Hollywood productions to center a black woman's story. Whoopi Goldberg's unforgettable performance as Celie captured raw emotions and resonated deeply with black audience, offering a rare glimpse into a previously unseen narrative. While lauded for its authenticity and emotional potency, the film received criticism for its focus on Celie's suffering and potential traumatizing nature of its depiction of abuse. Some viewers find the original film's earthy spirituality deeply resonant, appreciating its critique of traditional religious structures and its emphasis on personal resilience. I could see the argument pointing to Celie's unfulfilled longing for a more formal spiritual connection, a gap left deliberately by the film to highlight the limitations of the established framework. Steven Spielberg and Oprah also discussed how they would have loved to dive deeper into Celie's sexuality, but at the time, all we got was that kiss and the implication of sex. But the implication for the time really was they were lovers. Celie and Suge were lovers. We fast forward to 2023 and director Blitz Bazwale presents a vibrant musical interpretation, injecting theatricality and fantastical elements. The musical offers a different window into Celie's journey. Some viewers find its uplifting message and empowerment dance sequences a refreshing counterpoint to the harsh realities of the original, but it can be argued that the stylized presentation dilutes the emotional weight and raw grit of Celie's experience. And the musical's embrace of Christian imagery offers comfort and hope, especially to Black audiences whose experiences are often overlooked within the religious narratives. But this shift is downplaying the novel's complex exploration of gender dynamics and female sexuality, particularly Celie's relationship with Shug Avery, which appears sanitized and less subversive in the musical depiction because of its deep rootedness to Black Christianity and Christianity as a whole. The musical keeps us away. It keeps us from really diving deep into the core of Celie's relationship and really understanding her character. Watching the original film, you can get a better understanding of who Celie is and her journey. But watching the musical, you don't get it. It's triumphant. It assumes that you've already seen the previous movie and you know the story. And that in itself is a problem. While it is a bold, different interpretation of the story, but you yourself have to have a story to be a story. That's just what it is. And the musical has the framework of the story and it does its own interpretation, but it leaves the homework to the audience. We have to know what's going on. We have to understand the darkness that Celie's going through, and it just doesn't translate on screen. So if you don't know the story, you can't truly appreciate the numbers that she's doing. You can't really appreciate the hope, and it's jarring for her to get smacked up in one scene by Mr. and then she's just skipping and dancing in another scene. It's kind of jarring, but that's also what really makes The Color Purple so fascinating. Different interpretations, different audience reactions. The Color Purple itself sparks conversation across generations and cultural divide. Film festivals buzz with critical discourse, online forums, Reddit, Twitter, are passionate responses. Fan art reimagines characters and scenes in countless of creative ways. Certain scenes transcend and are cultural, and people can recite line for line. The story sparks dialogue about gender dynamics, societal injustices. Through these conversations, the emotional tapestry of The Color Purple expands, enriched by a diverse perspective and personal connections. Black women's voices and intergenerational perspective is really at the heart of the story. We follow Celie's life from decades. From the age of 14 all the way up into her 50s, we grow with her character. We see her journey, more so in the original than the musical, because the musical felt rushed. We don't really get a sense of time because just the musical aspect of it doesn't translate well to film. It's a Broadway musical brought to cameras. It just doesn't show us. We don't grow with the character of Celie because we don't see her hero's journey happen in front of our eyes. But nonetheless, it still sparks conversation. It still evokes emotion from women, Black women specifically. And these conversations in modern times need to happen because while the 1987 movie, it's its own thing that sparked a debate in that generation, this movie can bring people attention to it. Maybe if you've never seen it before, you might check out the original, and now you might read the book, and now you might get a better understanding of the story, and it'll spark conversation. Black women, Black men, people in general, the audience who watches these movies, the predominantly white audience, because it's just America, spark certain conversations. Why is Mr. the way he is? Why does Celie's life have to be this hard? It's not because of Mr. It's not because of the Black man that she's like that. While he is a direct influence on why her life is like that, why is his life like that? This story starts off in 1909. It's about, 20 years after slavery's ended. These people are put into a new world where they have to navigate in a post-slavery society. And the only idea they have, the only lessons they have are from the plantation, is from their history. And that cycle begins, and to this day that cycle is perpetuated in different forms because again society evolved, but those structures are still in place. So even though the movies are contrasting, and even though I'm gonna say the original's better, we have to move beyond what's better and what's not better, and we have to stop critiquing the shortcomings and dive deeper into appreciating the unique contributions to understanding the multifaceted themes of the color purple. Because while the musical is bombastic and it has a tonal shift that is more uplifting, Celie's story is uplifting, overcoming adversity is uplifting, and celebrating it, singing it, and dancing is a cultural thing that Black people as a whole, Black women have always embraced when they're overcoming, when they're triumphant. It's an expression of joy, power, and liberation and femininity, as well as masculinity, because we saw the dudes. But that also is a way of interpreting and leaning deeper into certain themes of the story, because it is an interpretation. It is a different perspective. And in 15, 20, 30 years, there might be an anime version of The Color Purple. It could be. But we have to give it a try because interpretations matter. What are we focusing on with this anime or this musical or this book or this 1987 version of the movie? As the final notes of the musical fade and the dust settles on the original's final scene, we remain bathed in the afterglow of Celie's journey. Each shade of purple, from the earthy browns of resilience to the joyous vibrancy of liberation, has etched itself into our hearts. The Color Purple reminds us that stories, like emotions and faith, come in a multitude of hues, and the true understanding lies in embracing the complexities, the contradictions, and the ever-shifting spectrum of the human experience. And overall, if you can have an understanding of that, and you can see Celie's journey but dive deeper into what she has to overcome, if you can see the expression of female sexuality and the fact that Celie this whole time was a lesbian. She wasn't into men. She was forced into every relation with the man. And it's not anti-men. It's just the establishments of the time being forced upon it. And even the church being so prominent in the musical could be seen as an interpretation of interjecting societal norms and pressures onto individuals when we're all just here to live life, not harm anybody, and experience love. But guys, that's just my thoughts on The Color Purple. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.